Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 105. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Look for news recap number 153. So just a quick summary of things to go over. AFIA put out their regular newsletter, which had some information about StarCom V2. The Atlas Brew occurred, and they talked about fleet rentals. So that's pretty much the highlights of the past week. Yep, that's pretty much it. I think there was one video, maybe two videos from content creators about fleet rentals, but yeah, those were the highlights. So I'll go ahead and talk about those, and then kind of talk about the state of Star Atlas and kind of my what I'm doing right now, playing the game. But before I get to that, just a couple quick things that I'm working on within the Star Atlas ecosystem. The first is I am in the drafts phase of my Star Atlas DAO PIP. So it's a proposal. It's to create an in-person community meetup platform. I am received council feedback in the review. Definitely a few things I can improve, so I've been working on that. And so as soon as I get that done, I'll submit it again for a second review. But if you are a Star Atlas member, there is another PIP that was for a meetup at the Gamescom? Can't remember. Anyways, a gaming conference late this year in Germany, and a few people put that together for hosting a meetup with renting a place and things like that. It's in the voting phase. If you listen to this in the next few days, should still be in the voting phase. So if you are a Star Atlas member and you hold Polis and you have staked it, so you have Polis voting rights, definitely go check that out. Great to have community involvement. I do have my Star Atlas merch store. If you've been listening a while, it's pretty much the same as it's always been because I've been working on the Star Atlas pips. So anyways, it's open for business at intergalacticgear.com, selling some mugs and trying to get some wall art up. But I do have a merch survey there, so I gladly appreciate anybody who wants to give me some input on future products. So once get through this proposal phase, if it's approved, obviously more work, but if it's not, have some free time again. So anyways, and then also I am on the back burner trying to create a Star Atlas community. This is for Star Atlas gamers who are not members of guilds, who would like a different environment than kind of the chat-based system that's in Discord. This would be more of a threaded discussions. You can sign up for updates. They'll get an email sent to you. So it's a little more asynchronous, and you kind of hopefully follow along with things. So if you're interested in something like that, please go to intergalacticcoalition.com, and there's an interest survey there. So go ahead and get into the bulk of the content. Again, like I mentioned, there were two highlights that I wanted to bring up. One, AFIA produces their newsletter, which I think is Funcracker. Guess I should look a little closer, but they've been doing it for so long, but I'm pretty sure it's him. Anyways, there was some interesting information. I didn't put the dots together, so I really appreciate they did. But apparently the updates to Sage that occurred in the last few weeks that were kind of quiet. Definitely didn't see an announcement. But anyways, that part of the reason why they were having some problems was this was the new StarCom version 2 release. And so there was some, hiccups, but that's fine. They were working on them. But kind of feel like that flew under the radar because a lot of people have been asking when are they going to provide the new infrastructure, which they call StarCom. So that, I think, is great development. And I wish kind of the team had kind of publicize that more. Maybe I missed something, but that's a great milestone. I mean, very important milestone, actually, to move to some new technology and things like that. So I think that was really good. And again, maybe I missed it or just didn't feel like it was promoted as much. So that's a great development. The other thing the article mentioned, which, again, there's been lots of people talking about fleet rentals, but a couple of things caught my attention, was that on the fleets, when you rent them, they do start and stop at real locations. So I think it was mentioned that there's no magic involved. And in the Atlas Brew, which I'll get to in a second, they did talk more about free rentals. But again, I read this before that brew. But what was interesting, again, was that you start at a real location and it stops at a real location. So there is some potential issues related to moving that fleet around. And so thus there could be some fuel things. And partly I'm a little more aware of fuel because I've been trying to move all my resources around and it just constantly eats up fuel. So I'll be curious to see how people handle that because seems to be more slanted toward the fleet, slanted against the fleet holder, that they may start it at one location, then they rent it out. The other person can do whatever they want, and then they could just leave it anywhere, which kind of is annoying. But again, I'll get into it. I talked about the Atlas Brew, but again, that was interesting. So without further ado, the Atlas Brew was completely about fleet rentals, and what was really interesting is two additional people showed up than the normal Star Atlas community team. One sounds like a Star Atlas employee who was it is kind of leading up this effort. So that was great. And then the second gentleman came in later, and I'm not 100% sure, they were kind of a little cagey, but they mentioned a third party, but sure sounded like that the Sly Guild or the people behind the Sly Assistant were helping with the fleet rentals. Again, it wasn't really announced, and they kind of said, well, we're not sure they want. Anyway, so I'm not 100% sure, but a couple times Sly was mentioned. So I'm going to just guess that they're related. But anyways, there was lots of great information put out. They showed some screen captures, and then the two gentlemen talked about different things and answered some of the questions from the community. So really good. And again, I'm liking this kind of new approach. It goes back to the local markets where it was announced. Then there were many weeks where things could be talked about and discussed and before the release. And again, a lot of expectations set that it's just the minimum viable product. So there'll be definitely problems and things they want to improve almost right out of the gate, but they want to get it released. So again, I want to compliment the team for kind of this nice gradual rollout, announcing things and then talking about them before things come out. So anyway, so yeah, those are the two big highlights that I kind of gathered on or wrote down because of what I was listening to myself. So anyways, moving into my other two segments, State of Star Atlas, in addition to what was in, or I shouldn't say in, but I think the whole Atlas locker improvements have kind of sunk in a little more. And I definitely think a week later that everything sounds like a good idea in the sense of there will be more benefits, there'll be more tiers. So all of it seems good. So I'm glad the team is proposing. Again, it wasn't something that they had mentioned before, kind of in some sense it seems like on the peripheral, but I get the feeling that, well, anyways, I'll get to it in a second because one of the things really stood out. But still always this issue of when they say, well, it's going to need more development effort. So again, it's great that it's announced. It's great it's getting community feedback. If all or some of it at least comes out at some point, then all great. Hopefully, but if nothing comes out of it, then kind of, yeah, again, just But again, I'm just speculating at this point. But the one feature, after thinking about it for a few days, and partly because it affects me, I think is like, oh my word, they need to do this. And it's the Solana reimbursement. Forget which part of the improvement document. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is such a huge benefit. And I don't really understand the implications because, again, there were all the different tiers on how much Atlas, but as I can't remember which person it was. Well, again, a number of the content creators have put out videos about it. So Beyond the Horizon, Metaverse Explorer, OGC Thor, all three of them put out some videos. So I'm kind of not sure, again, in hindsight, which one exactly had this thing, but that the Solana reimbursement would directly, or I mean, you would be able to get it with the lowest tier of locking Atlas, and the difference between the amount you had to lock and the benefit, again, if I remember correctly, was drastic. But I think the key was the amount you would get on a daily basis sure feels like it would cover all the small fleet rental fees. So again, I'm not sure how it affects whales and things like that. But again, I'm seeing on my plane of Sage that the biggest problem is, well, not the biggest problem, but it is and I've said this before, it's basically to even play the game, I have to pay a fee, but the fee does nothing toward the game. So it either doesn't impact me as a gamer or it doesn't go to the game development studio, which indirectly I'm funding them to keep working. It is completely lost. And I think I may have mentioned this before, even if it was a tax, at least the tax, say a government tax, at least goes to the government and the government spends it. Now you can argue if they're spending it well or not, but that's not the point. It does something. Where the Solana fee, now I guess I should back up. The Solana fee does pay the Solana, I'm not sure how to say it. Yeah, validators. Anyways, the people running the Solana technology, because again, it's not centralized. So the fees do go to them to support their thing. So I guess I shouldn't say it's not at all going to someone, but it's outside the Star Atlas ecosystem. So it's harder to see the value. But again, I guess if there's no Solana, there'd be no Star Atlas. So again, but regardless, what I think is being proposed in this Atlas locker is that the fees, that we pay per transaction in Atlas, I don't know. Anyways, the Solana fees that go out could be covered by fees that are taken in by gameplay. So in that sense, things we're already doing will cover the Solana fees, so it would be a net positive to an individual gamer that they wouldn't lose that thing. And I guess in some senses, the Solana validators still get paid. So it's win-win-win. So anyways, it just really sunk in that it would be definitely the way. And again, I think this goes back to this thing, which I'll briefly mention on my journey again, is moving things around, is I'm okay stopping my fleet, mining some hydrogen to turn into fuel to restart the moving, because the only thing that's costing me is basically time of being patient enough for all that to happen. But I'm not making enough return to offset the Solana fees, because as has been mentioned before, the fee is a fee no matter if you're moving 1 unit or 1 million units or 1 billion units. So it doesn't scale appropriately. I mean, if it was a really, really small fee, if you do a little bit, and it was a really big fee if you do a lot, I guess that would kind of make more sense, but it doesn't. It's a flat. So if the fees in the game can be used to offset that fee, then again, it's a win-win-win. So I'm not making any return because I have too small a fleet, but I'm losing because I'm taking too long. So it would benefit me only to do things faster by doing more of them to offset the fees. So again, as more as I think about it, if all the math works out and all the costs and it's sustainable, I mean, this just seems like such a game changer to allow people to spend time without having to spend more resource, or in this case, more fees. So anyways, I'm really coming on board that one seems like just an awesome thing, and immediately would impact me. So as I switch over to the last thing, which is my journey, I'm still moving carbon, still haven't made enough time to figure out if I should just sell at the local markets, but again, kind of just going through the motions, because I've been doing this for a couple months, maybe 3 months. I could probably go back and find out when I started the whole thing. But the only thing I can say for sure that's changed is I lost Solana for months and months and months. So if that had been a non-issue and somehow I was reimbursed for that, then it's taken forever, but it's a closed loop in the sense that I'm putting in time, but I'm not putting in resources that I can't get back, or in this case, the fees. So again, still just moving carbon, need to figure out some time to do it. But again, like I mentioned at the beginning, just putting my priorities elsewhere to work on this draft pip, and then eventually I should get back to my merch store. But anyway, so that's about it. Seems like one of those kind of typical weeks, a little bit of news. Again, always great that the community team does the Atlas Brew each week and brings on very topical conversations. So that's great. Thanks to all the content creators who put out weekly things. And feels just kind of keeping in the loop on everything. So been a good week. So anyways, again, just to wrap up, again, totally open to having guests on the podcast. Again, probably don't have enough time to do it, but again, if you're willing to be on, I'll put you on my to-do list, and eventually we'll get something scheduled. And again, please do check out. If you're definitely interested in feedback on my pip, so if again go to the Discord channel, look in the drafts pip, my name, and in-person community meetup platforms there. I'd love to have anybody who has any feedback, if you have the time to read it and give some feedback. Totally open to all suggestions and refinements. Again, if you're interested in some very limited selection of merch, in this case mugs and a couple of wall art, please go to intergalacticgear.com. And if you'd like to hang out and chat with other Star Atlas gamers who aren't members of guilds but nevertheless want to kind of hang out in a community kind of more based upon threaded discussions and email alerts when stuff's new, please check out intergalacticcoalition.com. And that wraps it up for another week. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great week ahead. This is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald.